I'm a fashion designer, and I tell you, when I saw this iridescent, gift wrapping, futuristic dress, I thought, did Barbie just cosplay as Cathy Earnshaw? I swear my right eye started twitching in the cinema. You have the beautiful weight of wool, the breathability of linen, and the crispness of cotton. But Emerald Fennell gives us futuristic liquid organza made from plastic. This fabric doesn't breathe, it suffocates, and that's all I could think about. And while the fashion designer in me was screaming, the storyteller in me kind of understood it. Cathy isn't a person anymore. She is a product. She has been gift wrapped for Edgar Linton. And that sick kind of feeling we're getting from this dress and the synthetic plasticky looking fabric is exactly what Jacqueline Durran intended. Watching Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights had my inner fashion lover and fabric enthusiast cringing in some moments and gobsmacked in others. The costume designer for this film is Jacqueline Durran, and you probably know her from Barbie, Atonement, Pride and Prejudice 2005, Little Women, and Beauty and the Beast. And while the costumes for this film are beautiful and extravagant, they kept pulling me out of the storyline and kept giving me quite an unsettled feeling. Now, whether this was an intentional choice remains to be seen. Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights was set in the late 18th century, roughly between 1750 and 1803, in the Yorkshire moors of northern England. Think vast countryside, muddy pathways, and purple heather. However, we all know by now, and according to my film review of Wuthering Heights, that not much of Fennell's film is accurate to the book. We are truly looking at the storyline and therefore the costume design through the lens of what a metropolitan, unknowing teenager might think the world of Wuthering Heights looks like. Highly recommend watching my film review before you jump into this one, so I'll tag that below. I'm going to focus mainly on Cathy Earnshaw because I think her costume and character arc in this is the most important one. According to Jacqueline Durran, there was between 45 and 50 costumes made for Margot Robbie. The references for her costumes range from Elizabethan to Georgian to Victorian, from paintings and historical dress to contemporary fashion, with inspiration drawn from vintage Thierry Mugler and Alexander McQueen, with the added reference of period costumes in 20th century films. The challenge was to distill all of these inspirations into looks for Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. And Cathy's costumes really mirror her inner emotional arc and development throughout the film. Let's start with the milkmaid dress. You've probably seen this one everywhere. It is the dress of her adolescence. So we've got a Swiss peasant looking costume with a white blouse, a red corset over the top, and a tartan skirt. Not to be confused with gingham or plaid, this is a tartan pattern. As I was researching the costumes on this, I came across a trend term called more core. So you've heard of cottagecore. This is kind of the move on from cottagecore into the much kind of more darker, gothic, country look. So essentially viewed through the lens of a teenager who's living in London trying to wonder about what the Yorkshire moors looks like. This outfit really personifies Yorkshire's ruggedness mixed with a cultural hybrid, fashionable country aesthetic. It frames the Yorkshire moors as wild and passionate and romantic and a somewhat foreign space to the metropolitan viewer. The actual look was inspired by Swiss peasant paintings from the 1840s. And the look creates a fairy tale, almost Oktoberfest vibe that is meant to signal her wild and unhinged nature when she's a teenager. Durran actually said, "It's difficult to nail this look because it is a nod to a period, a nod to contemporary fashion, but also a nod to old Hollywood. It has all the themes we want to bring in visually to the movie, so it was about meshing it all together. It's a costume and you know it's a costume, and it's not necessarily realistic or unrealistic." So they're really playing in this kind of surrealist environment where you know that it's a costume and it is meant to feel like that. The symbolism of red as Cathy's colour throughout the film really mirrors her core personality traits, her wildness, her passion, but also her aggression and anger. And then that colour combined with the tartan is a way to combine her passionate, angry red colour with an outdoorsy, rugged and wild pattern. The faux leather corset, I absolutely loved this corset. It was designed by Jacqueline Durran, but it was created by Tamsin Lily White. I'll tag her below because I think she just did an incredible job of creating such a beautiful corset. But let's get into the symbolism of it. So this leather corset intentionally blends BDSM elements with folk iconography to reflect that Scarlet Fever dream-like aspect of the film. The corset's restrictive lacing at the front represents the literal and figurative entrapment that Cathy feels after her marriage to Edgar Linton, which contrasts with her freedom at Wuthering Heights. The heart cutouts and folk look iconography to me were almost reminiscent of lace work. So there was a bit of a sexiness to the cutouts on the leather corset, which I really loved. And then the use of leather as more of a predator material. So you're getting that kind of contrast of the feminine cutout lace iconography and the harder working class material of leather. And I thought that was a really interesting expression of her duplicitous nature. So she's kind of got that prey predator nature in her, which comes out in different parts of the film. So I loved this corset and how it represented her kind of inner nature. Cathy's wedding dress. This white wedding dress is probably the biggest anachronism in the entire film. So before Queen Victoria popularized wearing white for your wedding in 1840, most brides just wore their best dress. It didn't really matter what color it was. It could have been red, black, blue. It was just the nicest dress that they had. Having a purely white wedding dress, especially up in the Yorkshire moors, is incredibly impractical and expensive to maintain. And essentially that is why she is wearing white. It's a show of extreme elitism and that she really doesn't have to do any manual labor ever anymore because she's got enough money. And while the novel is set in the late 18th and early 19th century, the dress silhouette is modeled after a design that wouldn't exist for another 60 years. And that really highlights Cathy's want to be fashion forward, but ultimately self-destructive in the social ascent that she wants. Durran used Winterhalter's famous 1865 portrait of Empress Elizabeth of Austria, Sissi, another incredible series on Netflix. Loved that show so much. The costumes in that were incredible. So that was a key reference for this dress design. The influence is seen in the dress as ethereal and voluminous, but it has that kind of ice cold brittleness in the coloration of it. And the architecture of this dress was really inspired by the famous petal dress by Charles James in 1951. I've done a deep dive on Charles James. He was an incredible couture designer who a lot of people don't actually know about. So I will add in that link down below so you can view some of his work. But essentially he's known for his engineered silhouettes, almost to the point where they're architecture on the body. I thought that was really cool because it really reinforced the fact that this dress was a literal cage on her body. So marriage was really a cage for Cathy. By blending that romanticism of the 19th century with the structural wasp waist dresses of the 1950s, the dress visually represents Cathy and her internal conflict between her wild nature and her new role as a civilized woman. Don't even get me started on the corset lacing scene that she has with Nellie before she gets married. It was all through the trailers and I knew actually as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely not going to be accurate because they're lacing her corset directly against her skin. Was anyone who knows anything about even the smallest thing about fashion, historical costumes, knows that corsets are never put directly against the skin. There is always a layer underneath. There's always a chemise underneath because corsets are really difficult to clean and maintain. So there was always a layer underneath that would soak up all the sweat and grime so that your corset didn't have to be washed that often anyway. Okay, the wedding night dress. This one really made me scrunch up my face in the cinema and I think I verbally scoffed out loud because when I saw this dress I was like, oh, that really makes me feel sick. Referred to as the wedding present dress, this look was inspired by a 1950s photograph of a woman wrapped in cellophane. Then that inspiration is combined with Thierry Mugler's nude dress. This dress treats Cathy as a literal possession or a gift for her new husband Edgar. And its artificial, synthetic, iridescent look fabric conveys the emotional suffocation that she's going through and the kind of nightmarish, surreal reality of the choice that she's made. Genuinely, this look made me feel quite sick. And I get it, she's a present, right? It's meant to actually make us feel very uncomfortable and a bit sick seeing it. Like, this is the patriarchy's view of what women should be doing on their wedding night, like presenting themselves to their husband as a gift to be unwrapped, a commodity, an ornament. And aside from that, I just kept thinking plastic, polyester, synthetic, everywhere. I'm so torn between being completely disgusted by this look and being really appreciative of the fact that if this is the intention, which I think it is, that it has such a visceral effect on me. I think that's incredible costume design if you are getting that intended response from the viewer. Cathy's clothing at Linton Manor is all a complete reflection of what she's dealing with internally. Now we know that the white blouse and the skirt isn't actually latex. It is a futuristic technical material that is meant to kind of look like latex. But essentially the white blouse and the red skirt is mirroring her surroundings as if she's just trying to camouflage herself and become part of the house, as if she is in fact an ornament or just a decoration. She's trying to lose her wild moorland identity and assimilate to now being a married proper woman at Linton Manor. There's a sequence in the film referred to as the dollhouse arc where Cathy's essentially being recreated by Isabella Linton, almost as if she were a living doll. This doll idea keeps coming up, especially with the miniature dollhouse that they have in the main dining room, and the fact that Isabella makes a little doll out of Cathy's hair to represent her. So very creepy, very suffocating, and just very surreal. The costumes and the hair during this montage transition from functional to really surreal, which just mirrors that growing disconnect between Cathy and her roots. That use of liquid organza and high shine synthetic fabrics give her that plasticky, artificial, suffocating appearance, which contrasts directly with her earthy, kind of muddy, natural fibre roots at Wuthering Heights. And the excessive blown out proportions of the big sleeves and the huge skirts not only express the fact that she is in a class now where she doesn't have to do any physical labour because she actually couldn't in those clothes, but they signal that distortion of reality and this kind of chaotic combining of Alice in Wonderland surrealism with that Marie Antoinette excess. Now, the Red Riding Hood scene. I thought this scene was so beautiful, just purely from a cinematography perspective. In this scene, we see Cathy go back to Wuthering Heights. She's wearing this beautiful crimson velvet cape with a huge hood, which Durran actually spoke about. She said that red capes at that time were totally historically accurate, but the actual fabrication and proportions aren't as accurate in this scene. But against that monochrome black and white of Wuthering Heights, you see her in this beautiful cocoon of velvet. And it's almost as if the cocoon serves as a way of wrapping and protecting herself from those harsh edges of Wuthering Heights. It's essentially a piece of her new self that she has brought with her and wrapped around her to protect her from her old self. Yet there's this tragic irony to it. She is, yes, protecting herself with a beautiful, expensive, soft cocoon, but the sheer volume of it and weight of it is restrictive. So it's this reminder of the beautiful but crushing weight of societal expectations, and no matter how beautiful your cage is, it's still a cage. Now, there's these two rooms in Linton Manor that completely freaked me out and probably freaked you guys out, but it was essentially Cathy's bedroom, also known as the skin room, which had wallpaper that was up-close photos of Margot Robbie's actual skin. And once I understood the movie and the concept of turning her into an ornament, the fact that they used her skin as literal wallpaper is such a great translation of her being literally turned into decoration. She's turned her skin into wallpaper for the house. So I thought that was really cool, really creepy, had the intended effect of making me feel a bit sick. And then there's the dressing room that Isabella gives up so that Cathy can have a room for all her new clothes. But the one thing about this room that really freaked me out was that kind of pergola in the middle of the room that had the clear cellophane plastic draped on it. That really made me feel sick, but it also gave me these hospital kind of clinical vibes and just pure suffocation when you see that type of clear cellophane material. And it's just mirroring how Cathy's feeling at Linton Manor, completely suffocated and vulnerable. Now, there was common themes that came up all throughout the film. This repetition of bows and lacing and straps. It was a combination of, yes, the kind of sexy BDSM elements, but really for me, it just mirrored the patriarchal effect of her situation and the situation of women at that time. And then the addition of bows, it's almost as if there is that complete restriction, but the bow makes it pretty. So it's like, yes, women are restricted and can't do this and can't do that, but like, let's make it look beautiful. So I thought that was really cool and really telling of that period in time, purely through a design element. And the two key fabrications that kept coming up for me were leather and velvet. Velvet being this soft, luxurious, but very heavy and almost suffocating fabric, was for me reminiscent of Linton Manor. Then leather, it's this working class material that gets hammered and beaten and marked and yet still keeps working hard. But it's also a predatory material. It's kind of hunting and a play on prey and predator, which mirrors Cathy's kind of duplicitous nature. And that represents Wuthering Heights. So I felt like these two key materials and fabrications were symbolic of the two houses and therefore the two representations of society, class, people, essentially. Now, comparing all of the costume design from the film with the looks that Margot Robbie wore on the press tour, I found it really interesting comparing and contrasting those two. Margot Robbie's stylist, Andrew Muckamile, is incredibly talented. I loved all the looks and the archival runway looks that he pulled for the press tour. I'll link the post below because I did a whole carousel about all her looks. But I just wanted to briefly talk about the key designers that she used and how the looks, to me, represented more the book version of Cathy Earnshaw. So Dilara Findakoglu was probably one of the designers that Muckamile pulled the most for Margot Robbie. And I felt the looks really reframed Cathy as like this cool, modern, feral, wild girl, which gave me those Charlie XCX vibes of the soundtrack. So a lot of animalistic materials, red snakeskin, shredded and worn treatments, BDSM type buckled and strap looks, the morning hair work of the Emily Bronte bracelet inspired dress. Incredible. That bracelet that she wore, it was a recreation because the original's too delicate, but it was essentially a woven bracelet that was made from all the Bronte sisters' hair. Their symbolism, so beautiful. So the dress was inspired by that specific piece of jewelry and absolutely loved that. The Schiaparelli dress. This dress for me really symbolized Cathy's internal emotional arc in the book and the film, but more in the book. So you start with this beautiful sweetheart neckline with the beige satin underneath and the delicate black chantilly lace over the top. So ultra sexy, ultra feminine, sweetheart neckline, gorgeous. Then you've got this beautiful, gigantic red crimson blood color fishtail hem, which is essentially looks like it's kind of soaking up blood from the floor. But to me, it was about Cathy's connection to the earth and her environment at Wuthering Heights, her core color, her passion, her anger, her wildness. But then in the middle, you've got this incredible structured black ombre that is having this kind of tug of war and push and pull with the other elements. And for me, it was Cathy's inner emotional arc and war, essentially, that she's having with herself and who she wants to be, who she thinks should be, who she is in her essence. This dress just captured all of that. So incredible work by Daniel Roseberry at Schiaparelli. Mark Gong had this beautiful kind of naive outfit in a way. So you're starting with the garment, which is black, white and red. So Cathy's and the film's core colors. And you've got layers, some straps are kind of coming off. Then you've got this beautiful red sash across her chest, which is symbolic of like her wild nature, her passion, her anger. And then you've got this kind of coquettish hairstyle, with little pink bows. It's as if a little girl has come along and dressed her up. But then you've got these huge thigh-high BDSM-inspired strapped boots with gigantic heels. So just really cool play on all the different psychological elements of Cathy. And yeah, I just loved that Mark Gong look. Incredible. Tom Brown, I thought the look that Tom Brown did for her at the Paris release when it was raining and it was nighttime, it was all black and very structural. And you've got this kind of disconnect of the garment around her knees. And I felt like that was her disconnect in her mind, where it's almost as if she couldn't marry the two parts of herself, of that wild part of her and then who she was like trying to be. So there's that just very jarring architectural disconnect. So I loved that Tom Brown look. Maison Margiela, this look, that was from Glenn Martin's debut, and the look just personifies the end part of Cathy's story, where she's kind of really sick and she's hallucinating. She kind of thinks she's dead. She kind of doesn't. And it's got that incredible digital bird's wing print, then with the organza chiffon fabrication over the top, which gives it that translucent kind of ghostly feel, but also the wild element, it being an animal print in one way. Then you've got the cracked cement plaster looking tabby boots, which were incredible. But for me, it was really the perspex heel at the back, because it's almost as if she was transcending from her earthly life to her ghostly form. So I loved that whole outfit. And then the two John Galliano looks, which was so cool. It gave Almost Famous vibes with that brocade jacket, the animalistic kind of fur around her neck and the cuffs, but with the little mini skirt and then nothing underneath on the top, and then the thigh-high stockings, the wild hair. It felt very Kate Hudson in Almost Famous mixed with Marie Antoinette. And then the brocade look, where she's wearing that beautiful kind of mint green brocade with the fringing. It was like she was a piece of furniture. The fabrication, the color, the fringing, she looked like a couch or a chaise lounge. I loved that so much. That really mirrors her time in the Linton Manor, trying to assimilate to her surroundings. So I feel like the press tour worked really hard to represent Cathy in the book, which I really appreciated. And the level of knowledge and depth of the character that came through the looks chosen, incredible. And I also wonder what that would have been like in the film to have costumes like that. But then I know they're different applications. Perhaps it would have worked if the setting would have been more modern, like with what Baz Luhrmann did with Romeo and Juliet. Maybe it could have worked, but costume design isn't about making everyone look extremely beautiful. It's about generating a response from the viewer. Yes, it can be like, that's beautiful, how luscious and gorgeous. It can be, that makes me feel so sick or suffocated. The point is to extract that feeling, and I think Jacqueline Durran has done a really good job of that. The goal was to make us as viewers feel how Cathy felt, uncomfortable and vulnerable and restricted and suffocated. Don't get me wrong, I do love historically accurate costumes with lots of real silk and incredible embellishments, but I really enjoyed the way that the costume design in this film made my brain move into that space of, why does that make me feel sick? Or why does that make me feel like icky and suffocated? And it's because that's how Cathy was feeling. I think Jacqueline Durran has done an incredible job of translating that onto the screen. What did you think? I'm fascinated to hear what you thought. Did you love the press tour fashion more than the film fashion? Do you think it could have worked? Did you love the film fashion or hate it? I want to know. Leave a comment in the comment section and we can chat about it there.